Thank you for joining us here at the ProMatDX RPA booth. We are honored to have a dignified panel of experts in the field. And today we're really going to talk a little bit more about how optimizing automation and its acceleration within the markets that we play in using reusable packaging today. They're increasing around the world. I think a lot of that is due to the pandemic. It seems, and we'll dive into this a little bit later, but it seems like plans that may have been 3 to 5 years down the road have been moved forward, and things are moving faster for some folks. There was a 2020 MHI industry report that said the global industrial robotics industry saw annual growth of 13%, and that was from 2014 to 2019. And 39% of those respondents reported that implementation of robotics and automation in their business was going to happen. 73% expect that to happen in the next 5 years. And as I said, it seems like that's actually moving faster today based on the experience of some of our panel. In that role, reusable packaging and the equipment that comes with it, it's critical that these are within spec, that these meet the needs so that the automation can do its job efficiently. I'm honored to say today we have a great panel of folks led by Zach Riggs. Zach, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hey,
Zach is the Director of Network Engineering for ProMat. Zach?
How you doing? Yeah, I'm Zach Riggs. I manage our network engineering department. That's everything from looking at where we place our assets across the network to optimize our supply chain, to the execution of those major capital projects and the analytics. So kind of runs the breadth of what we do to ensure that we have the best supply chain possible.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Zach. Appreciate it. Morten Bielefeld. He's the Senior Vice President of Sales and Service from Brule Systems. Morten?
Yeah. So my name is Morten, and we do, I'm working for Brule Systems, and we supply full automated washing and handling system for reusable packaging, such as bins, pallets, crates, and so on. So.
Very good. And where are you today? Are you in Denmark?
I'm actually in Denmark, yeah. So that's
very nice.
Scandinavia.
Thanks for staying up for us.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Very nice. And last but certainly not least, Bob Peterson is the VP of Marketing from Orbis Corporation. Bob?
Hi, thanks, Paul. Yeah, I'm Bob Peterson, Vice President of Marketing. In my role, I'm responsible for all of our products, current products, and also all of our new product development. And it's definitely taken off in this space of automation and how our containers can play within that space. So it's a very hot topic right now.
It is a very hot topic, and it's much different than back in the days when we were just making dairy crates, right? And
Yes,
whatever else. It's evolved quite a bit. So thanks for joining us, Bob. Appreciate it. The key takeaways we're hoping you'll get out of this session is what are the trends in physical and digital automation within warehouse operations? What are the requirements for these transport packages, returnable, reusable transport packages in those automated environments? And how reusable packaging optimizes the performance within those systems. So with that, I'm going to start off and I'll throw this out. Why don't we start with you, Zach? Related to material handling and supply chain, distribution of goods, what are some of the common ways in which physical automation, which means the robotics to automatic guided vehicles, how is that being applied to equipment and machinery in your operations today?
Yeah, for sure. We were one of the early adopters in grocery automation. In fact, we've got 6 highly automated facilities with a 7th under construction in piece and case pick and a variety of temperature zones. So kind of runs the gamut there. And that's everything from the expected conveyors to the AGVs to the mini load cranes, all the way through fully automated selection, which has been a big win for us. And then now as we're pushing in deeper into the e-com world, most folks know about our partnership with Ocado, and that drives our automation from what was in the early days really focused on picking and quality. And now we're leveraging automation to change that focus or expand on that focus to freshness and availability. So having the products every time and making sure they're super fresh. And so we're applying it both in the legacy world at as you would expect in productivity, but also in the e-com world as availability becomes a key tenet.
And that's moved forward, I expect, quite a bit since COVID. Is that, have you seen a change?
We have, our e-com demand is up over 100%
Wow.
during 2020. So yeah, we started the journey early and we're glad we did.
From what we do, returnable packaging, reusable packaging, how important is that in your decisions, and how involved is Kroger in making sure that the totes meet these specifications to ensure smooth operation of the system?
Yeah, it's optimal. I've been in the food industry for going on 20 years. I was involved in the early automation, and one of the early memories I've got is getting that first produce truck in automation, where you've got a consolidator who just delivered you a single SKU and 13 different types of packaging, which you feel good that you got the product and you feel good that it's really fresh, but no way for automation to handle it. So that was one of these really early learnings as we thought about how to automate produce, is that RPCs and our world of automation really allow us to have that fresh product from multiple growers, but have a standard application for automated storage and retrieval, so that we're really efficient with that.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah.
Bob, digital automation, leveraging information technology, capturing data, AI. What are you guys seeing as far as being able to digitally automate and track some of these products and packages?
Yeah, well, I think it's really been a trend that's really picked up a lot of speed, especially with everything getting more automate. When there's more automation within the facilities, using those reusable packages, whether it's a pallet or a tote, can be part of that system that can help be that communication link. Whether it's different RFID tags or other technologies that are added to our products, and how that plays within the customer's supply chain. It can really be that vehicle to transport the information. So, instead of where you get into some of the situations with one-way packaging, it's difficult to add a bunch of cost or technology to that one-time shipment through the system. But when you're using reusables, it can help. There's a big benefit to help with the automation and just make it more repeatable, and it's a more consistent package. But also those packages can be part of the communication chain.
Yeah. Are you seeing more of a trend from your customers wanting to do track and trace and being able to keep track of these products, whether it's, where it is, location or temperature or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you went back 2 years ago, we were probably taking on those kinds of projects as kind of the one-offs. Now we have dedicated resources in all of our different markets of teams ready to go as customers come in with new opportunities.
Great information. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the same, and everything's kind of moving fast forward on that. So yeah, pretty interesting. Morton, it's this pandemic isn't just limited to North America. You're seeing it in Europe and in Denmark where you're at. And I'd say starting when the pandemic hit in the spring of 2020, before COVID, we had a robust economy here in North America. I think globally, most economies were doing fairly well. Today, the market has changed. And it seems like e-commerce has taken off. And when you have e-commerce and you're doing some of the things that Zach and Bob just alluded to, the requirement for your equipment and automation to make sure that these reusable packages are kept clean and sanitary and able to be used. What have you guys experienced, and what do you think is going to happen in the future here in the near term?
In terms of the automation post-pandemic, we see, and we have been seeing, as you mentioned, in Scandinavia, we have seen a huge growth over the last 10 years in automation in terms of automatic guided vehicles. There can be robot system for palletizing, depalletizing of crates, pallets, and so on, filling the crates in the centers and so on, going to the shops and then return back again. And we do see a heavily growth in the coming years also, and especially in North America, as you mentioned. You're correct. in part of this area in North America is a little bit, well, not behind, but the cost has not been high enough, to be honest, to maybe give a good payback. But that is certainly has changed over the last few years, and it will be changing really dramatically over the next few years to come. And we also see in terms of cleaning the product itself with the RFID tag we just talked about, which is often combined, and I think we'll see that in North America also, combined with a barcode also. That means you can log where was it washed, temperature, track, date, time, you send it, you mentioned it yourself, send it out, who is it going to, how long it's been gone, when it's coming back, invoicing, you know, depending on who got the pallet and crates and so on. So and that's something we see a lot of in Sweden and Norway as example in full scale.
Yeah, it's I think it alludes to what you talked about. In North America, a lot of companies have talked about, you know, we want to be sustainable, but at the end, it always comes down to the financials. And does it make sense? Well,
you're spot on right, because we do. I guess that's maybe a little bit more in Europe and northern part of Europe that sometimes it doesn't have to be the lowest cost. Just if it's something with environmental or something like that, then the market or the government can impose certain standards that we see. And in all fairness, Europe compared to the US, well, probably more or less the same size, right? 250, 350 million people. And in Europe, we do see, we have smaller countries like in Scandinavia, and it's also a little bit easier, you know, in distance, transport of the goods and so on. So that maybe also makes sense that some of the things we're talking about right now is starting maybe in northern part of Europe and then going to North America, where the distance is just much bigger, right?
Yeah, and I think that's true. We actually had, I think it was Lawrence Fink from BlackRock came out about a year and a half ago and made a comment saying that BlackRock was no longer going to invest in companies that simply had a blurb in their annual report about being sustainable. He was going to invest in companies that are actually executing to be sustainable, making decisions that were based on saving the environment, right? Getting away from one-way packaging and going to reusable packaging. Are you seeing some of the same things, Zach?
Yeah, we are. One of the things we're seeing, though, is as we get deeper into some of our processes, when you think about e-commerce and what has to happen on each picking, there's a process involved where you've got to take that case, open it up. If it's cardboard, take the product out, throw it on a trash line. Now I've got to go through the baling and the recycling, and all of that is really a hit to productivity. And we're working with our supply chain to more integrate reusable packaging into that. And what I love about it, and one of the phrases I like to use, is that we're finding it's no longer as much of a choice between being sustainability and productivity, but sustainability can actually lead to productivity, and that's where it gets really interesting in the world we're living in. Is we add these into our process, we actually get more efficient while being sustainable.
Great stuff. Thank you. Bob, while we're with you, reusable packaging products such as pallets and bins, totes, they need to be accurate. They need to be to a certain spec when you're putting them into these automated environments. Do you have anything that you can share about some of the process that Orbis has gone through in designing and developing these packages specific to a certain system, whether it's a macro fulfillment or a micro fulfillment system or something as big as Amazon or anything?
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the challenge comes into as over the growth we've seen over the last couple of years, and the accelerated growth on the e-commerce side is where you used to have a very limited amount of tooling and capacity that was needed to supply these systems, and now you're at double-digit numbers of capacity and tools and cavities that you have to keep producing a very consistent part. And so there's a higher level of expectation from a manufacturing process and material specifications to make sure that you are putting out the right part. You go back to, you use dairy cases, it was part of the earlier conversation. And as long as the human being could pick it up and stack it on top of the other one, that was in spec. But now with the amount of robotics and different, just laser eyes across, supply, across conveyors and things like that, where the part has to be extremely consistent. It's a bigger challenge these days.
Yeah, and you add that, and you go to the the large system integrators that are doing whether it be macro fulfillment, which I think Zach, you guys are primarily focused on macro fulfillment in your warehouses, and then we have other retailers that are doing micro fulfillment and doing these automated warehouses, as an extension to their existing stores. Each of those systems is different, and the integrators want a different design, something special for their system. Yes, it keeps us in business, but I think ultimately, if we're going to get to where we've all talked about, coming up with something that's somewhat uniform, that would be bigger than just these customers and these systems, having sustainable packages that can be used within a variety of different applications will allow us to get rid of one-way packaging and probably catch up to where things are for you there in Europe there, Morten.
Yeah, I think when I think about what we're doing with both macro fulfillment, we talk a lot about our e-commerce ecosystem, and what that means is we do have a lot of solutions going in, and you're right, everyone's got a different tray, a different tote. I think it's gonna be incumbent on us to, as retailers, to really try to pull that in, because I don't think anyone right now is believing that there's necessarily a one size fits all. I think we're looking at lots of different options to meet different customer demand needs. So the customer that wants it in an hour is very different from the customer that wants it tomorrow. And so that ecosystem requires some standardization. It also has played out a little bit in COVID for us, where in the US, there was a period of time where there were some issues in the supply of meat, specifically in pork. And what we saw was that the suppliers that had standardized reusable packaging, we preferred those, as we were struggling to get that supply to our customers. We're out there looking for any vendor we can find that can supply the product we need. But one of the filters we would apply was, are they on the system that uses the right spec of reusable plastic container for us, that allowed us to easily ingest it into our automation, quickly get it to the customer. So we've made a tenet of our approach, a seamless, what we call the seamless ecosystem, because we want folks to be able to go to one spot and then choose all of these ways to interact with us. But all of those ways to interact with us come with some level of packaging. And so the more standardization we can get across those different levels of packaging, make us more efficient. The race right now is both on demand, but it's also on cost to serve. And so we've got to win on both in order to pick up market share.
So, hey, Morten, how is reusable packaging compatible in automated environments? And, what are some of the benefits and advantages of using these reusable packages in warehouses, the customers you've gone and visited? What is the feedback they're giving you on this evolution?
Yeah, so you had a good point before about the different sizes, tolerances that we see on the, I'll just call it graze ride for food as an example. But we do see a really good positive, and this is both for North America, but especially also in Europe, where we see a good impact on the reusable packaging, both for e-commerce also. That's mainly for internal use, though, I would say. And then, of course, in the wash center itself, before going back to the distributors and then out to the shops again. And especially which is getting better, the tolerances of the different design of the crates, whether it's a foldable one or with a swing bar like we have in Europe, not that much in North America, and the different kind of pallets that could be a plastic pallet, right, for food safety also, if you enter that into a slaughterhouse and so on. But they are often combined also in the warehouses with, well, sorry, not often, but more and more combined with, as I mentioned before, the RFID tag and the barcodes. So you can register everything on that RFID tag. And especially, which I'm curious to see in North America, where are you where are your crates, and maybe in the future more and more plastic pellets, where are they? Are they going to, let's say, Kroger, and when are they getting back? Who is owning that crate, and how do we get, not we, but how do everyone get paid for that? Where is it lost? Where, who is paying for it, and so on? But it's and especially in terms of the robotics and the AGVs, they really require the tolerances to be, which is of course a good thing about the RPCs and pellets.
We've already started to work on some of those packages, in that industry, and I think it's been sped up over the last year just on a availability of a workforce for a lot of those manufacturers of bakeries and a lot of those things, that just the shortage of people to come in and work, they're forced to go to automation, and then that automation requires a more standard basket or a more standard case, and so we're definitely seeing those. Even those customers that maybe not be as highly automated as an ASRS system or those kinds of things are adding automation, which adds a need and a tighter tolerance on containers, even as the simple dairy case.
Yeah. Zach, are you guys seeing any change of some of that old standby type of packaging, or do you have any vision of that?
Yeah, we are seeing some of that. And as we continue to automate both in our core supply chain and our e-commerce, we're investing in both. And you see a lot of those legacy type of packaging that normally you would grab a milk crate, put it on a truck, take it to a DC, and a DC drops it to a store. Now, as I'm putting them in automation, both in the core and e-com world, there's another touch there. So I think that's the challenge is you start having to look at it holistically throughout the supply chain.
So that requires collaboration that Zach alluded to between the vendors and the buyers, the retailers, and whomever's touching it. But it also requires folks like us to kind of put their egos to the side and say, there's plenty of business for all of us if we're doing what's in the best interest of the environment, making sustainable packaging. Let's put our heads together and come up with something that will allow us to do this and do it where we can, as companies and manufacturers, we can still make money. But in the end, the environment is benefiting from it. The retailers are benefiting from it because they're also saving money. So, we can, if we can pull those pieces together, we can benefit the greater good and still all do our jobs well. Everybody talks, we figure out why we're doing this, we communicate that out effectively. And in the end, people want to do what's right for the earth. So you know what? Yeah, maybe I have to break this tote down, or maybe I have to nest this thing in and get it back to the manufacturing location. I'm willing to do that because I know I'm doing it for the greater good. And I think we're getting there. And I think if we can do what Bob talked about, and that is all come together and figure out a solution as one, I think you're going to see an increase in sustainable packaging. I think you're going to see an increase in automation, and in the end, the winner is going to be the earth. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate your time. It looks like we've coming to the end of our session. I want to open up. Does anybody have any final thoughts they want to add or continue the discussion?
No, I just want to say thanks to the group for a good discussion, good conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Some of these things.
Really good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone.
Yeah, thank you all for joining. I really appreciate it. I think this is the start of us all coming together and doing what's in the best interest of the earth. Morten, special thanks for you joining us all the way from Denmark. I know the time change is a challenge, but you still look good. So hopefully you're able to go out and enjoy happy hour. Thank you all very much. Have a great day. Enjoy ProMatDX. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.